information. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. I got asked a question on LinkedIn that I realized might be a frequently asked series of questions. So let me just make a quick video on it. Main motivators for small clinics. So what are the primary motivators for small clinics, whether private practices or community health centers, to become research sites? To what extent are financial incentives a factor? Now, the politically correct answer, which I know you guys don't expect from me, so I'm going to tell you what the reality of the situation is. The politically correct answer is, we want alternatives for our patients, which there is a lot of truth to that. My first PI here in Yuma, when I reached out to him about being a PI, his first reaction to me asking him about it after I explained research is, what does it cost the patient? So he didn't ask how much he's going to get paid. So he really was looking for an alternative treatment options for his patients. But what got my foot in the door was, this is a business opportunity. And this is one of the better PIs. I've met tons of doctors throughout my 2 decades of doing this. If you count all the ones I've talked to, hundreds, maybe thousands of doctors. All of them. Every single one, even if they cover it in some kind of altruistic wrapping, it boils down to, is this a business I can do? Remember, I'm talking about private practice clinics and small healthcare, community-based healthcare clinics, not academic medical centers. I'm not talking a nonprofit. There's probably other motivations there. Good luck getting them to do these things quickly, though. As far as what small research sites do, they're the true heroes of this industry, I think. It's financial motivation. It's, okay, I have a private practice. We're getting squeezed as far as reimbursement rates. We still want to give our patients quality service, even though the market forces are working against us, even though the consolidation is forcing us to, or the incentivizing us not to. We still want to do it. We want to be stubborn. This seems like it could help us out, and it could help the patients out, and it could help you out. So financial incentives is the number one driver for why small clinics would even want to consider research. This is why this idea of, let's get clinics to just refer patients to other sites. Let's not get them to do it, because that's too much work. As much as they want alternative care options, from the physicians I talk to, the vast majority would want to do it in-house, meaning they want to offer the service. They don't want to refer out to someone else to offer it. They want the brand association with doing research. They want the extra revenue from doing research, and they don't just want a referral fee. So I know there's a lot of DCT companies, their whole thesis is referring physicians will refer patients and send them, and look, it's working in these cases. Those are outlier cases, in my opinion. If you approach the community clinician with the right angle and the right entrepreneur, most of them see it. By the way, there's not that many left. There's not that many independent private practices left. The ones that are left are still there for a reason. They refuse to get consolidated. They refuse to become part of the bigger system. And they still want to serve the community. That's vast majority of my experience. And I've seen it over these last 2 decades getting progressively worse, less and less independent physicians. That's an entire different, that's a 3-hour-long podcast. So financial incentives, but they want to be the ones able to do it, not to necessarily refer. Hats off to them that want to refer to other clinics. I don't think that's a good business model. I don't think that's a foundation for a good business model. If you could pull it off, I'll go on record and say, hey, I was wrong. I was wrong about that. If you can pull it off consistently, don't show me 1 case or 2 cases. Actually make a sustainable business out of it. Then talk to me. Number 2 question. Barriers for small clinics. For small clinics that see patients regularly, what are the top 2 to 3 barriers to becoming a research site? How are these barriers typically overcome today? It boils down to entrepreneurs, small business owners like myself, all the Save Our Sites co-founders, the majority of the people that attend Save Our Sites entrepreneurial minded folk that want to create solutions, that want to be the change they see in the world, that, if you want to go less altruistic, that understand how the business works and understand that behind all the smoke and mirrors, it's not that difficult as it seems. If you already have a private practice, I've done a 2-hour video on this, how to start a site from scratch. It boils down to you do need somebody that knows what they're doing, that is not the PI, because the PI is busy. For the site to actually provide a value to the sponsors, the PI still needs to be seeing patients. The clinicians that work for the PI still need to be seeing patients in the private practice. That's the recruitment funnel. That's why we need more of these clinics. That's why we even have diversity initiatives. That's why it's even worth having this discussion of opening up sites in small underserved communities or communities where minorities live, because of those patients and that doctor-clinician-patient relationship that's already established. You don't want to ruin that. The good thing about clinical research, if you have the right coordinator in place, if you have the right site director in place, which by the way can be the same person, if you have the right business development person in place to get the studies, if you have the right quality assurance person in place to make sure, that's the next question, to keep track of everything, and the right contracts and budgets person in place, by the way, they could all be the same person. The PI doesn't need to spend more than 10 hours a week max. And that's when he or she has 10 studies and making 7 figures a year gross revenue. Easily. You have 10 studies and you're enrolling just an average number of patients in each of those studies. And by average, I mean right in the middle of what all the other sites are doing for that study. You're making 7 figures. And you're probably taking home, netting half of that as the PI. Not a bad additional stream of revenue for 10 hours of your time max. Well, we're talking about starting out on your first study or 3, which is most likely to happen in your first year. You're talking about 1 to 5 hours a week max. This is a way for clinicians to scale their time as well. They're used to a world where their input, how many hours I put in, dictates their output, how much revenue I get. Some of them have advanced and created systems in their private practice and hired other clinicians, and they've been able to scale this model. But research, you can start out with it being scaled. The revenue does not depend on the time in that the PI necessarily puts. Of course, the PIs can't do absolutely anything and still get paid. They probably could, but it wouldn't be a sustainable business. 1 to 5 hours a week until you get a bunch of studies, let's say more than 5, where it's 10 hours a week. That's it. But you need the personnel, and these personnel, they're tough to find, right? You need somebody who knows how to be a coordinator. Would it be helpful if you were someone with 3 years of coordinating experience, 2 years of monitoring experience, and you've also dabbled in contracts and budgets and business development. And while it may be difficult, like to find one individual that is an expert at all of these skills, it's going to be tough to find, but you can get away with starting with a good coordinator that it has enough connections in the industry to get studies, knows enough about the job to run the studies properly without too many deviations, and knows enough about contracts and budgets. Honestly, contracts and budgets probably the hardest one of all this, because most CRCs and CRAs are sheltered from the contract and budget part, which is why Chris and I in 2013 created our site services, our consulting services for sites, where for a monthly fee, we help sites get studies, we help sites do their budgets and contracts, we walk sites through IRB submissions and startup regulatory and any other questions they may have. We're the only ones in the industry that actually do this for this affordable rate. It's a low monthly cost. If you're interested, message me. We can set up a call. You can get away with just a coordinator, and maybe a coordinator and a consultant. That's it. And that's how you keep the deviations away. Then we have a CRC Academy where you can train your staff on how to do it. But honestly, the way to limit deviations is to know the protocol, to start slowly. Maybe it's easier to answer this question of how do you avoid unnecessary deviations and ruin your site before it actually gets started. Don't do what somebody that Chris and I know did against our advice. They took on like 10 studies because they were in an extremely underserved area when they didn't really know what they were doing. They enrolled patients like crazy in all of them. And then, of course, they had quality issues because they didn't have anyone who knew how to be a coordinator. What you want to do is start out slow. Start with one study, go really slow, learn the fundamentals, treat your monitor like gold. They will train you or your staff if they understand that you're new. Remember, your value add to the sponsor is the underserved patients in your community, diversity, all that stuff that they're pushing for. Start slow and then build up. Start slow your first year, your second year, and then build a system so that you can take on more studies and scale. Don't scale too fast. I've seen that happen, and it's just as bad as not starting out at all. Maybe worse, because now you're out money too. So let me know what you think, Guru Nation. Like, subscribe, comment, share. This is a very important video that hopefully we got some questions answered here.